clarification on Mike Turner throwing a wrench into the monkey works of UFO disclosure, possible giants on Mars, a UFO battle in Mexico, and more. It's time for another UFO News Roundup, so get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, share on social media, and let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Okay, Dean Johnson breaks down the U.A.P. Senate and House language. A second UAP-related amendment proposed for H.R. 2670 was submitted to the House Rules Committee by Congressman Mike Gallagher, who, as you might remember from the hearing, seems to be a vocal advocate for UFO disclosure and was really asking some tough questions. I like Gallagher a lot for this. Containing language like the Gillibrand Amendment dealing with the classified UAP programs that is now included in the NDAA passed by the Senate as described above. However, the Gallagher Amendment was not made in order by the House Rules Committee, apparently due to some manner of objection informally lodged by leadership of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. In other words, the lovely Mike Turner. So even before Mike Turner was putting the kibosh down on future hearings in the House Oversight Committee, he was throwing his weight around and using his power to basically prevent UFO disclosure or any advancements along that line. In other words, Mike Turner is seeming more and more like an overt tool of the control group. Now maybe he's, a religious guy and he's doing all of this for some other reason. It's always possible. We definitely need more information on that. But it definitely looks like he is an obstacle to UFO disclosure and even an overt enemy of UFO disclosure. He is really going out of his way to try to prevent things from happening in Congress along those lines. But kudos to Mike Gallagher for trying to push things forward, and it looks like we have a battle of the mics going on in Congress over UFOs. Meanwhile, from MSN.com comes this crazy story that Peru is locked down and nobody is allowed to leave. What the hell? Nobody is entirely sure what is going on in Peru right now, but whatever it is absolutely sounds like the plot to a Scooby-Doo movie episode. A lot of reports of aliens invading have been circulating, and now some are saying the government is locking down and preventing people from leaving. There is footage of people screaming and running away from something blurry, but it's hard to say what is going on, and even harder if you only speak English and can't understand what the screaming people are saying. Are people being stopped from fleeing aliens, or is there a more mundane explanation? Well, the article doesn't provide any answers, and it doesn't provide sources for its claims that people are being prevented from leaving. So I'm not going to go into any more details about stuff that can't be corroborated. But, something's going on there, and this is really interesting. If these reports are true, that indeed Peru is being locked down because of what's going on there with the alien invasion or whatever it is. Okay, here's a really cool one from Patrick Johnson. Type 1 spheres in V formation chasing down a craft over Mexico. And Patrick Johnson is an author and a UFO researcher. Yeah, so check this out. We've got a battle of UFOs or something. We've got these 3 spheres seeming to chase a typical flying saucer or something. I mean, maybe they're just hanging out together. I don't know. Maybe they're going to a party together. But this was really, really interesting. And I don't know the types of spheres. That's beyond my ken. But type 1 spheres in V formation, vertical config, target is side on. Okay, well, so are these spheres supposed to be, against this flying saucer? It says target. I wish there was more information about this incident, but it is very intriguing. And, are these spheres ours? Is the flying saucer ours? Is it humans versus aliens in high-tech ships? Is it aliens versus aliens in high-tech ships? And of course, when I say alien, I also mean in that in a broader sense to include ultra-terrestrials, other dimensionals, time travelers, what have you. So what is going on in the skies over Mexico? Does it have anything to do with what's going on in South America? I don't know. But I think of what's going on in Peru, and I think of, the video that we've seen of that alien being that looks more like a gray or a mantis type being. And that juxtaposed against the guys in silver suits who probably aren't of that same species, right? I don't know. But maybe they're opposed to each other. Maybe they're working together. But it does seem like there's a couple of different groups, at least, involved in what's going on in Peru. So might they be fighting it out in other places as well? Just a thought. Let me know what you think. Oh, and check this out. According to the think tank, the object in the Go Fast video is clearly underwater, as evident by this video. Okay, all right. Is the famous Go Fast footage actually of an object that passes underwater? Are we looking at a trans-medium object here? There it is, super slowed down. I don't know, guys. What do you think? Is the Go Fast UFO, is that actually passing underwater? If so, I guess it's definitely not a seagull. But a lot of UFOs do seem to go underwater and are trans-medium. So if indeed this turns out to be legit and this analysis turns out to be legit, I guess I wouldn't be surprised. Oh, and good news. It looks like CNN is finally getting in on the UFO game. They have been kind of lagging in all of this. They've had a few reports here and there, but they really have not been diving into this as much as some of the other news outlets. So let's take a listen and see what their coverage is, whether it's positive or negative or neutral.
To make a one-stop shop for not only the reporting of unidentified aerial or anomalous phenomena, UAPs we're going to call them from now on, but also to put out information once a UAP incident has been identified and resolved, or at least as far as DOD and the apparatus working on this can get it. So you'll see they've already posted some fairly new videos of UAPs. This one, I believe, is of a commercial aircraft they determined after looking at the video itself and other information they had. But the idea here is that DOD is well aware of not only the interest in this, but also that these can be a national security issue. And that's why this is so important to the Department of Defense. So at some point soon, this will be a place where current and former U.S. government employees can go and can submit reports of UAPs, even going back decades. And then after that, within a couple months, according to the Pentagon, the public will also be able to report on UAP incidents. There's also more information here. This is a typical UAP report, or what they expect to see in one of these reports. Some interesting information here. Most of these are described as round, of a size between 1 and 4 meters. Somewhere between 10 and 30,000 feet, a color of white or translucent there, or silver, and then moving anywhere between stationary to Mach 2, which is about 1,200 or 1,300 miles an hour. So certainly a bit of a range there. Now there's also a map of UAP hotspots. We'll call it UFO hotspots to make this a little easier. And you'll see these areas where the hotspots are the East Coast, the West Coast of the US, the Middle East there, and then Eastern Asia. So also interesting on where DOD says they get most of their reports. Again, the idea here, and the reason this was created, the Arrow office was created to standardize this and to try to figure it out. Brianna, as of last update, they have some 650 reports of UAPs they're going through.
Well, that's not why Arrow was created, according to the lovely Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick. Sean Kirkpatrick says Arrow doesn't have a reason to exist, and if they did find evidence of ETs, they would refer to NASA or somebody else. But, it's a good point, and it's a really good piece by CNN. I was really impressed by that. I felt that they took it seriously. There was some good information there. Of course, they're using numbers presented by Arrow, and we can't trust any of those numbers because Sean Kirkpatrick has been caught fudging the numbers before in the UAP report to Congress. So, but overall, a very good piece by CNN and taking the UFO subject very seriously and actually giving good information. So I appreciate that. I salute CNN for their coverage, and I hope they continue to do so. Meanwhile, I recently saw this article about remote viewing Mars. When Joseph McGonigal remote viewed Mars some decades ago, and Joseph McGonigal is one of the most famous and well thought of remote viewers out there, work with the CIA to remote view stuff. He says that he was working with the CIA, but they actually were not the ones that contracted this particular viewing. It was somebody else, and we don't know who that was. So I would love to find out who exactly commissioned that viewing. But yeah, let's just go to it. The document titled Mars Exploration, May 22, 1984, basically centers around a subject that made use of astral projection, which helped him observe ancient life on Mars. In this document, there is a transcript where a subject named Joseph McGonigal, a retired U.S. Army veteran, was given an envelope prior to the interview and asked not to open it until the interview ended. According to the CIA's own documents, the unnamed psychic described the planet Mars. Time of interest approximately 1 million years BC. And the psychic, of course, is Joseph McGonigal, even if the CIA documents didn't name him. He claimed to identify that he saw pyramid like structures on the red planet. The subject also added that he witnessed an alien life forms on the Martian surface. That is crazy. And yeah, the subject I'm seeing, it's like a perception of a shadow of people, very tall, thin. It's only a shadow. It's as if they were there and they're not there anymore. The monitor says go back to a period of time where they are there. It's like I get a lot of static on a line and everything. It's breaking up all the time, very fragmentary pieces. Just report the data. Don't try to put things together. McGonigal says, I just keep seeing very large people. They appear thin and tall, but they're very large, wearing some kind of strange clothes. According to the date specified in the Mars Exploration Memo, it was approved to be published only in 2000, although it was recorded in 1984. And McGonigal was the only remote viewer to be working at that time. So yeah, so it was McGonigal, and he was seeing giants on Mars. Now, what made me think of this, and why did I bring this to your attention? Well, it's because we've heard several recent reports about very tall beings interacting with humans, and it seems very relevant to me to think about other tall beings that people have interacted with or seen. I'm thinking particularly of the beings in Peru right now. That are invading Peru, and they seem to be 7-foot tall beings. I'm also thinking of the case in Colares, Brazil, the UFO shootdown, where the UFO control group shot down 2 UFOs and executed the beings inside, who were said to be very tall, basketball player sized. So that made me think about this older report from Joseph McGonigal in a new light. Could some of these beings, crazy as it sounds, as comic booky as it may sound, could some of these beings be Martians? Maybe from a lost civilization on Mars. I talk all the time about Atlantis. I love Atlantis and the idea of a lost human civilization of a great high technology connected to the beings in the higher planes or what have you. An enlightened civilization that some remnant of may still exist. Well, could there be a lost civilization on Mars? And they found out how to get here, and they are here, and that we are dealing with them now, and we are not, dealing with them peacefully, let us say, and they are not dealing peacefully with us. Now, that's just speculation and conjecture, but it's interesting to think about because we have so many small alien encounters, right? The small grays and other similar beings. We don't have a whole lot of tall humanoid aliens or non-human encounters. They're out there. Absolutely, they're out there. A lot of them are the mantids or the tall grays. But we don't have too many others. There's the Nordics, who are human-sized, and then there are tall whites. So who are the tall whites? Is that what we're seeing here? Or is it some other race? Maybe multiple tall races interacting with us at the same time? If there's multiple small races, why not multiple tall races? But it's food for thought, and I thought I'd bring it to your attention. Now, some of you don't like remote viewing, and I totally get it. And in that particular remote viewing with Joseph McGonigal, it's just one remote viewer, no matter how good, and there's no way to corroborate that. So I much prefer remote viewings that are done as a team, and if they can all corroborate some aspect of each other's viewing, then that makes it much more solid in my mind. So take any remote viewing with a grain of salt, especially if it's just one. But just reading from UFO Joe's tweet here, in his opinion, folks who dismiss the woo are going to struggle as we go forward. And I completely agree. That's why I bring it up over and over again. I think it's all tied in together. And here's a quote from Leslie Kean. A lot of people I respect, really great thinkers in this field, do consider there to be a connection between consciousness, between the afterlife, between paranormal abilities, and all the things that I've written about in that book, Surviving Death, to the UFO phenomenon. And that's what I talk about a lot, is the idea of what I call the greater phenomenon, where all these different facets are all lumped together in one super phenomenon. And the UFO phenomenon is simply one subset of a much larger phenomenon, the greater phenomenon. And the paranormal, cryptids, consciousness stuff, remote viewing, it's all tied up in one big thing. And they're all connected to each other. There's a lot of paranormal activity associated with UFOs, and I'm not going to go into a big thing about that. But yeah, they do seem to be all connected to each other, and so I do talk about them all in the same breath. Just encouraging those of you who don't like the woo to maybe be a little more open to it. Just a thought. I think if we're going to understand the UFO reality, well, we're not going to understand it until we take a broader view of what that actually is, and maybe other methods of finding that out. We may or may not get there with science. We may or may not get there with remote viewing or channeling or any other one method. But maybe if we combine them all and utilize them together, we can actually make some progress. Anyway, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts about all this craziness. Mike Turner, giants on Mars, UFOs fighting each other. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, give me a big thumbs up. I sure would appreciate it. Smash the subscribe button and the bell to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. Join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. I would love to see you guys there. And if you could share this video on social media, that would be super helpful. If you wanted to support Cosmic Road in a bigger way, please consider becoming a channel member. Channel members are rock stars, and I really appreciate you guys' support. Meanwhile, there's plenty of other videos on the channel to check out, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road, signing out.